Hello, friends. Come in, come in, sit down, take a breath. My name is Miss Carol. I am a former career teacher, now here with you, sharing everything that I've learned about growth and healing, radical self acceptance, so that we can cultivate more meaningful relationships and connections every day. And today's video is going to be a little different because it's going to be a two-part video. So this is the first part of a two-part series discussing this one thing that is silently destroying your life. And for many years, this thing got in my way, whether it was starting a new relationship or a creative endeavor, or even getting a promotion at work. Somehow, some way, this one thing showed up and everything would fall to pieces. And if you are anything like me, which I am assuming that you are experiencing this thing and, feeling lost and perplexed by why this thing keeps showing up and what is it trying to teach me? What am I here to learn? The painful cycle of, having inspiration, creating momentum towards whatever goal we deem worthy or necessary or inspired towards. Feeling like you have a real shot at grasping it. You're on the road, you can sense, you can taste the victory. And then again, for whatever reason, this thing shows up out of the blue seemingly, and all of the pieces fall with our best intentions at heart. So in 2017, I began my teaching career, my formal teaching career. I had taught for, little here and there before that, but my formal teaching career began in the year 2017. And by 2019, I had decided that I was going to move abroad. I had taken a course specifically designed for teachers to teach English abroad. So 2019, where did I decide to go? I decided to go to China because boy, do I like a challenge. I like to jump right off the deep end. And little did I know that I was going to be bombarded with this decision that I had made. I had had such a strong dream for many years of living this nomadic lifestyle, of living out of a suitcase, traveling here, traveling there, learning new languages, maybe having a baby by some, fancy European. And unfortunately, by November of 2019, I was confronted with the reality of my desire because, again, I was in China. And even though here in the States, everything started to fall apart in 2020, there it started to really start to crumble in 2019. And, I'm not saying, not really, that I am responsible for a global pandemic. But what I am saying is that our external world is always a reflection of our internal world. Trust me when I tell you this, it is. And so, I had this one thing show up in my mind, on my heart, as questions that sounded like, who do you think you are? You're not going to succeed at that. Your time has passed. This is not meant for you. This was such an insidious background in my life, the stream of consciousness that I had for so many years. Unfortunately, I identified with it. I identified my person, my individuality with this consciousness of this one emotion that is destroying you silently, that is destroying your life silently. I had met, speaking of failed relationships, I had met this gentleman in 2012, 2012, 2013, and he was wonderful. He was absolutely wonderful. He was beautiful. He was tall, dark, handsome. He was Nigerian. We met at work, and we eventually had our first date. And I remember on our first date, it rained. And as a lady, when we go out for a date, I don't know if people really date anymore, but like people were still dating then. And as a lady getting out and getting ready, you get dressed up, you put makeup on, you get your hair done. For it to rain is pretty devastating. So I remember we got to the restaurant that we were going to have our first date at, and I was in my funk. I was sitting there and I was just like, I was huffy. I was just like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that it's raining and this is terrible. And I looked across at him, and he had this face of contentment over his, that he just beamed happiness and beamed joy. And so I asked him, I said, what's up with this? What's going on? And he said to me, rain is a sign of luck in Nigerian culture. We are so accustomed to perceiving things as wrong or as bad. It's like we can't even conceive of them in any other way. And so when he said this, it really did strike me. I was just like, okay, that's interesting. And we went on to have a really great date. Now, did I self-sabotage this relationship? Yes, I did. Because for whatever reason, he did not meet whatever checklist of criteria I had built up in my mind. And I don't even know what happened, honestly. It's been so many years. But unfortunately, he was a casualty of this emotion that consistently got in my way. I had another experience with a business partner, who I had known for many, many years. And we had dealt with each other in a romantic way. So we thought, what an idea. We should work together in business since we've been romantic and had so much success. So why not be business partners? So over the course of about 9 or 10 months, I had worked with him developing this course and launching it. Now, I was a teacher at the time, and though I was paying him, it was it was a struggle to both live my lifestyle on a teacher's salary and pay him adequately. But we were in business, so obviously you pay people what they're worth. And by the end of our dealings, we were probably maybe a month away from launching our business, for it becoming public. And I could not do this on my own. I knew that I needed him. I needed his guidance. I needed his mentoring. I needed his professional connections because I just did not have them. But we got to my last payment of what we had agreed upon, that I was going to provide him by providing me this service, and I could not pay him. I did not have the money to pay him. It was either I was going to pay my rent or I was going to pay him. And mind you, I had already I had already paid him $12,000 or $13,000 by that point, which was a lot of money for me at the time. That was everything I had saved. But this last payment, I could not pay him. And I remember I told him in the back of my mind, thinking that, okay, we're friends. We've been friends for years. He will understand. We can make some kind of, concession. We can work something out. Wrong. He started screaming at me that I was this and I was that. I was wasting his time. He could be working with this person. He had, he had so many other more important things that he could be doing besides wasting his time on me. And midway through his yelling at me, he told me that if I used any of the information, any of the knowledge, any of the materials that we had collaborated with on my own, that he was going to take me to court, that he was going to sue me. And I remember thinking like, wow, I thought we were friends. I thought, yes, we had decided to endeavor to be in business together, but I thought this person was my friend. But in this moment, he is showing me that he does not care about me ultimately, and that above all, his financial prosperity is what he is most interested in. And it was like that scene from What's Love Got to Do with It, where Tina Turner and Ike are in court and they're going through their divorce, and Ike is throwing a big fit about all of these things, and Tina is just like, he can keep it all. He can keep the clothes, the cars, the jewelry. I just want to keep my name. And it was like that. It was just like, sir, you can have it all. Keep it all. I won't use any of it. You have my word. And I haven't, and I didn't. And I got out of my car and I walked to my front door, and I just remember a peace and a calm come over me. And like I said, our external world and our internal world are always mirrors of one another. And in this society, in our culture, we neglect our finances because for whatever reason we have deemed ourselves unsuccessful, so we just turn a blind eye to them. But there is no greater way to highlight if we are aligned internally and externally than our finances. That is a perfect demonstration of how we feel about ourselves internally. And these were lessons that I needed to learn. That's just it. They had to be learned. But the truth was, I had systematically and methodically been my own worst enemy and had dismantled my own success. Failure is not a random thing. Your life is not a random thing. It is a very specific sequence of events designed to show you the symptoms of whatever narrative is happening inside of your life. And, there is something that is so insidious that we have all inhabited, whether we have adopted it from the people who raised us, the communities we've come from, the stories that we've told ourselves. This hidden secret, this hidden emotion is fear. And fear is so insidious because it shows up as so many different things. It shows up as resentment. It shows up as procrastination, laziness. It shows up as jealousy. It shows up as perfectionism, ironically. And it's so easy to believe that fear is complex, because it is. But the truth about it is, it's always rooted in fear. Fear of the unknown, fear of rejection, fear of not meeting whatever expectation you have led for yourself, the expectation of the person you used to be, the person you want to be, the expectation of who you believe someone else is. And unfortunately, fear cripples us to such a degree that most of the time we don't even start the thing. We don't even dream the dream that is in us to have. And my dream, again, was to live this nomadic lifestyle, live it and travel. And, we often don't start the thing because we are so crippled by our failure. And thinking back on it in hindsight now, living in China at what would be the onset of a global pandemic, it is so bugged to me. It's almost like, man, this is like a movie, because I was literally 2 hours away from the epicenter of where COVID originated. That's where I was living. That's where I chose to go. And prior to COVID breaking out, there were a few things that had happened that really kind of like perked my attention and my antenna. I was just like, something doesn't seem right here. One of the things was the outdoor markets that we all shopped at in the community. And you have to imagine this, okay? So I'm in this foreign country. I'm in this outdoor market. So directly coming into the market, You have people who are frying food on your left. You have vendors who are selling cleaning products on your right. And you keep on walking. There are people coughing, people sweeping. And then you look in front of you or you look slightly to your right, and there's a huge fish tank full of baby sharks. And then you look down and there's a big trough of squid or shrimp or fish, some of which are they alive? I don't know. But this is where I did my shopping because that's just what was available. And this is not a judgment. I want to make this clear. This is not a judgment on China or on Chinese culture. It's just an observation. These are just things that I saw. That's all. And needless to say, I was extremely homesick my first several months there. I got there in June of 2019, and I was extremely homesick. And the culture shock that I experienced moving all the way on the other side of the world could not be underestimated, you know. And how did I deal with that? How did the fear show up? It showed up by me excessively drinking. It showed up by me connecting with people from my past that I knew were not good for me. But I was so homesick and I was so lonely and I was so, wanting for this not to have been my life that I was reaching back, literally and figuratively, to people who I knew were not good for me. And in general, it was a guise of just woe is me and feeling sorry for myself, even though this was a decision that I wanted. This was a dream that I had wanted for myself. Now, I will give you the first big takeaway from this part one is that where fear and love are straddled, meaning if they both exist in your mind and you're constantly going back and forth, you will not live your life of fulfillment. Fear is so insidious, it will take anything that you give it. The universe will not support you straddling both worlds. At some point, you are going to have to choose. You're going to have to choose whether you live from fear or whether you live from love. You're just going to have to choose. So I encourage you to share what is the fear emotion that you dominantly experience that is keeping you from the life and the fulfillment that you desire. Please leave that below. I would love to comment on it. And again, this is a 2-part series, so make sure that you come back for the part 2. And friends, thank you for showing up. You are doing the work. I am so proud of you. Check out this next video, and I'll see you in the second one. Bye for now.